Fox host Laura Ingraham is using the disastrous war in the Middle East as a way to stop the prosecution of former President Donald Trump. Take a look.
This is a moment for the United States to come together, to grieve with those who are mourning. Let's be real clear. There is no place for hate in America.
Okay, well, if he's really against hate, then he should call a prosecutorial ceasefire against his political adversaries, like the former president, and direct his DOJ and DHS to stop making conservative Americans feel like they're the enemy, or like they're the violent extremists out there.
No, you see, if Joe Biden was really against hate, he'd stop the DOJ from trying to enforce the law. Wait, what? Hold on. Well, okay, first off, what does that have to do with hate at all? Look, a former president has been accused of some very serious crimes, okay? And I know that he thinks he's the victim of the hate crime, but just because he hates that it's happening to him does not make it a hate crime or hate at all. These are just, again, serious crimes. But look, Laura Ingraham pandering to Trump and Trump fans, using something that is completely unrelated, and it's not surprising. It shouldn't be surprising at all. But let me just address something, right? Oh, you see, the DOJ is making conservative Americans feel like they're the enemy or they're the violent extremists. Well, first of all, the average conservative actually is not a violent extremist. I think we can all agree on that. Like, first of all, there's millions of conservatives in this country. If every one of them was a violent extremist, well, that would be terrible. There would be many problems. Okay, this would be a very violent place. It's just not reality. That said, it is true that the FBI has warned that far-right extremism is the most dangerous domestic threat in this country, and has killed far more Americans than, for example, Islamic extremism or left-wing extremism. Those are true. Those are facts. You can look at the numbers. Okay. I should also note that there is a lot of really extreme rhetoric coming out of certain members of the MAGA movement. A lot of them happen to be, pundits on right-wing shows. And then you have people asking, okay, when is it time to get the guns? When's it time to get the guns? And of course, there are the polls that are really disturbing, where you do have a large amount of Republican voters that are saying things like, okay, yes, maybe if use of force is justified, when the government becomes corrupt or whatever. Okay. So I'm not saying it's a majority of them, but there is enough of people who are, that way to be concerned. And look, I can point at some of the attacks against some of the infrastructure by, members of the extremist far right, these domestic terrorists that are trying to promote a race war, okay, in this country. So that's disastrous. But again, I don't think that's the majority of people, okay? And the reason that I'm being very careful and cautious about this, and I'm being very nuanced here is, look, I'm not a right-winger. I'm not painting the other side as all America-hating fascists, like people like Laura are doing, okay? Laura Ingraham wants right-wingers to think that the left is all, they hate America, they hate all conservatives, they think all of them are racist, fascist, horrible people. No, I know plenty of conservatives personally. I don't agree with them. And, I do think that there are some that definitely have some tinges of racism, some more pronounced than others. But again, do I think that they're all completely horrible, irredeemable people? No, of course not. And I think there's plenty of good people that have legitimate, disagreements like tax policy and stuff like that, right? That said, she wants the right to hate the left. She wants the left to hate the right. And why is that? Because it keeps her audience. She makes money off this. And that's what it is at the end of the day. You do have these people out there that want you to hate the other side. so that they can keep getting eyeballs. But that has a problem. There's two problems, actually. For one, it does create extremism because you get these bubbles. You get these bubbles of people, and these bubbles, when these groups are isolated and they don't interact with members of the other political spectrum, then again, things become more and more extreme as they start talking about the other side, dehumanizing the other side. And again, this happens a lot on the right wing. Okay. And so you kind of got to step that back and be like, hey, number one, we're all Americans here. And so, of course, I don't want to see conservatives targeted by the DOJ, DHS. And that's not what's going on. Not for being conservative, but people who are Republicans who have done actual or alleged to have done actual serious crimes. There's nobody out there that's preying on innocent conservatives. Okay? Now, that said, law enforcement, like the FBI and police, they're generally made up of people who are conservative. So it's kind of weird having this entire thing where this mindset where like, oh yeah, see the FBI and the DOJ, they're going after conservatives because they're secret radical Marxists. What? That doesn't make any sense. Look, in the past, plenty of evidence where you had the FBI, for example, who targeted the left. You had Richard Nixon targeting the left with the drug war. You had he was targeting black people. You had Reagan and Black Panthers. I mean, again, a lot of conservatives do like to throw this up. Like, oh yeah, gun control, kind of racist, right? Ronald Reagan used it to go after the Black Panthers. Yes, that's because Ronald Reagan was racist. But it also turned out that, hey, modest amounts of gun control actually does reduce gun deaths. So, look at that. Doing the right thing, but for the wrong reasons. And then, of course, you had J. Edgar Hoover personally taking an interest in going after Martin Luther King Jr. because he thought he was a communist. So, again, that's what you historically have. Nowadays, there, by the way, still is targeting. Pipeline protesters are often targeted by the government. Civil rights protesters, often targeted by government and police. You had, during the Black Lives Matter protests, you had police officers coming in and literally abducting journalists and dumping them elsewhere on the side of the road. I mean, literal abductions, black bag, throw them in the back of the car or truck and van, whatever, drive them out somewhere and dump them off. I mean, it's insane what has happened. Then you had the kettling, again, of innocent people by police. And so to say that law enforcement is only targeting the right wing is just wrong. It's just wrong. They shouldn't be targeting anyone who hasn't done a crime. So that said, law enforcement has also been paying attention to right-wing groups. For example, Capitol rioters, which I think is totally justified. And of course, groups like the Proud Boys that are going around, again, making threats, attacking people, planning on bringing weapons into January 6th, things like that. But that said, Laura Ingraham is out there constantly playing victim for the far right and for Trump. And that's because she knows what he and her audience are looking for. And what that is for someone to validate their alleged victimhood. That's pretty much what it all comes down to. Well, we're conservatives, we're beaten down, we're the victims in all of this, because some people are getting their civil rights and we don't like it. We don't have all the power anymore. I mean, we have most of it. We don't have all the power anymore. We're victims. No, you're not victims. Yes, I know. For some people, equality seems like oppression, but I guarantee you, it's not, and you'll be fine.